Wagner soldiers have been unalived in Mali. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for choosing us again. We're going to jump into this very quickly because we need an African perspective. Do you remember Mali? You remember where Mali is? This is Mali. Great people, lovely situation. Now, in Mali, Wagner have been in Mali for the past couple of years to help them fight terrorists. And these terrorists are Tuaregs. That's their ethnicity. They don't quite look like this. They look very Arab. Okay? So the military were patrolling and going through the motion, and they were ambushed by these people. They were ambushed in a way that Wagner lost so many people. It was catastrophic. The Malian military also lost so many men, equipment, and many other things were taken away. They destroyed many things. We won't show you everything because we're going to get sanctioned. Unfortunately, we're going to try to open a private channel where you guys can see, document that cannot be published on YouTube. So why is Wagner in Mali? And why do the Tuareg attack Wagner? The Tuareg look Arabs, and they attacked Wagner that's working with the Malian government. We're going to try to understand here very quickly. We're going to try to find out very quickly. Now, they say apparently the West organized that because the way they beat the Russians and the Malians, it was too bad. It was just not possible from an army that is not trained or from an army that doesn't have the equipment necessary. The way this happens, it cannot just be the Tuareg by themselves. So now we're going to try to find out who was behind this, who was behind the attack. So the Tuareg in 2012 left Libya after President Mohammed Gaddafi was unalived. They left Libya with weapons, lots of weapons, and began a campaign of separatism in Mali. Basically, they wanted a part of Mali to create their own country. Obviously, the Malians did not want that. They want to keep the country together. But these guys were fighting ferociously in a way that they became rebels. They were trying everything they could to destroy here, destroy there, with the objective of taking a part of Mali and make it their own country. Now, the Malian government was really struggling with them at the time. They received the offer from the French. The French government said, we can come to your country and help you fight these rebels and upkeep peace. The Malian government allowed it. French soldiers came into Mali to try to fight the rebels, and it was a very long story. And obviously, it was not for free, You think the French were going to leave France and come and fight your fight for free? Obviously not. So many people believe Mali for France was a strategic location because of its location along the Niger River and its rich natural resources. French colonial authorities sought to exploit these resources through the establishment of agricultural plantation, mining operation, and forced labor. So French soldiers came into Mali to help Malians fight the Tuareg. The Tuareg are these people that came from Libya looking to cut Mali into two parts and create their own country in the north. As the years went, it became very, very difficult, and these Tuareg became very confident and very brave. And in 2015, they did an attack on Radisson Hotel in Mali. That was horrendous. Now, fast forward 2021, Mali decided to kick out the French soldiers because they felt like French soldiers were not moving forward. They were not finishing the problem. I mean, when you go to a doctor because you have a headache or a tummy that's hurt, and 10 years later you still have a headache, are you gonna still go to the same doctor? You probably won't. Okay, you probably will try to find another doctor for a second advice. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what the Malians did. They said to French, we love you very much, but we feel like this not ending war has to end at some point. Some people believe French soldiers were getting a lot of money through gold and many other minerals that they were accessing through this mayhem. And some experts feel like, well, if you're accessing gold through this fight against the rebels, would you really want to leave this country because the rebels are not there anymore? Probably not, if that's the only way you make money. Or if you're very happy, very content with the money you're making, you probably want to stay longer, right? So you can make more money. And many people feel like the reason why the war against the rebels were not ending by the French, France that's supposed to be a very strong military power, if the war was not ending, if they were not crushing the Tuareg rebels, it's because they were also profiting from that instance, from that lack of stability. Now, in 2021, the Malian government say France must leave. All stationed French soldiers that were in a group named MINUSMA should leave the country. They then left the country. And after they left the country, Mali changed many things. They discouraged the use of French as the language. They discouraged the use of French as songs or the French culture. And remind you here that Mali was colonized by France. And in most countries where France was the colonialist, they taught them the way of life. So you're going to express yourself in French. You're going to eat like a Frenchman. You're going to think like a Frenchman. And many people, the newest generation, accepted those values as theirs because obviously your parents were beaten up. You don't know anything else besides what you were instructed to learn. Now, the Malian new government from 2021 wants to reverse that. The government wanted to promote more Malian content, more Malian thinking and everything. Let's get back on track. Now, the relationship between France and Mali is definitely not good because France was kicked out of Mali, followed by Burkina Faso, and Niger lately kicked out France. That's only signifies that the interest of France in Africa is being lost. Therefore, it is in the interest of France to do whatever it can to get that power back. Now, many people are very curious to know who really attacked Wagner in Africa with the Malian army. Who unalived Wagner? So many Wagner agents and Malians. Let's see. This man has something very interesting to see. Let's watch.
Now, I want to show you this. This is from the Kiev Post, who obtained a photo, what they say is Tuareg rebels displaying the Ukrainian flag.
Tuareg rebel displaying the Ukrainian flag. Let's go. It still doesn't mean anything. Let's see.
Now let's do a little zoomy in here, and I want to point out some details to you that I find intriguing. Now, Tuareg rebels, right? These guys are ideological, untrained fighters. Notice that they carry their weapons all in actually kind of a uniform way, right? Across with the barrels pointed up, right? It's literally uniform. But make note about this guy. This is a dude who appears to be pretty pale-skinned for a Tuareg rebel, for a northern Algerian or a southern Algerian Malian. He also is carrying his weapon barrel pointed down with his finger very prominently off the trigger. This is something you would expect from a Western trained soldier or law enforcement officer. Someone with pretty extensive Western training. You may notice another detail. His face is blurred out.
His face is blurred out.
This man's face not blurred out. This guy's face is blurred out, sure. But so is this guy. Oh yeah, and so is this guy. Again, one of the only men wearing a polo shirt.
Polo shirt from a Tuareg. Interesting. Polo shirt?
Right? You notice khakis. Not a lot of khaki wearing. Almost every Tuareg rebel is wearing some camo pants. But this guy? Khakis. This guy. Face uncovered, sure. Khakis. Notice this man. Khakis and kicks. Right? Notice this guy too. Also appears very pale for a Malian. And again, kicks and no camo to be seen. So I point this out. Oh yeah, here's one other dude also rocking a polo shirt. These tend to, I look at this and I see that there's just a little bit more people at work here. Maybe the Ukrainians, sure, certainly. Wouldn't shock me if you told me it was the French. Wouldn't shock me if you told me it was Americans.
Very interesting, as you can see. Is it the French? Yeah, I mean, you could see. The men said it's all. These men are very pale. And you can clearly see their military training is very different. All the Tuareg soldiers are carrying their weapons up. And this man, in a very prominent manner, has got his finger outside the trigger, just like the Western. I mean, I've done weapons, I understand. And he's wearing khaki, and it's different. You can clearly see this. Okay, there's nothing to add on to that. Very clear. So this was orchestrated by somebody against Wagner group. Wagner are a special force. Some people call them rebels. Mercenaries. Mercenaries are people that you pay to fight your war for you. Wagners are Russians. They are under the umbrella of Putin. Who would want to arm Putin? Well, it's very simple. Currently, nobody in the West likes Putin. The French don't like Putin because Vladimir Putin has moved into African nations that used to be francophone. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger used to be sort of partners. Some people say controlled by France. But now Russia is running the show. Now, Americans are not very good friends with Putin, with the struggle of power, who's going to be the leader of the world. Now, number 3, Ukraine is not friend with Putin because of the war happening in Ukraine. Now, we have something very interesting here. Who are these people who have attacked Wagner? Now, we know that in March 2024, the Kiev Post reported that Ukrainian military intelligence was collaborating with Syrian rebels to launch attacks against Russian mercenaries in Syria. These operations targeted Russian forces stationed near the Golan Heights. So the Ukrainians have cooperated with the Syrian rebels to attack Russians in Syria. So Ukraine very clearly is doing a very interesting job of intelligence. The goal is to hit Russia because Russia has invaded Ukraine in some way. Russia doesn't believe to have invaded Ukraine. Ukraine says Russia has invaded Ukraine. So they're going to hit Russia whenever it's possible. And also what's very clear in this story is somebody admitted that the Ukrainians hit the Russians in Mali. Watch.
The fact that the rebels received the necessary information that allowed them to conduct a successful operation against Russian war criminals, the whole world has already seen this. In principle, this can be commented on. We certainly will not disclose any details, but let's say there will be a continuation. This is sensitive information. Therefore, everything that Ukraine does is happening within the limits and within the framework of international law, taking into account all the necessary procedures.
So as you can see, the war is not in Ukraine only anymore. It's the beginning of a world war. Wherever the interests of the Russians are, it doesn't matter who you are. They hit the Malians. So the Ukrainians were ready to hit both Russians and the Malians. It's a little bit like saying, if you friend with my enemy, it means you're my enemy. I'm gonna hit you too. It's very clear. That's what Ukraine has done. They have gone to find Tuareg rebels who are enemies of Malians because Malians have welcomed Russia in their country. So again, you see it, fellas. Tuareg soldiers have attacked both Wagner and Malian soldiers, and they have unalived many of them. And we can't show you the pictures, unfortunately. It's horrendous. It's bloody. It was a bloody mess. And this could only be possible if a very powerful state had done the intelligence. There must have been satellite viewers. There must have been so many things. The ambush was perfectly executed. And it was just impossible to say that this was executed by the Tuaregs alone. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. Are we moving toward a more general war in many other places? God bless.